What's up guys, and welcome back to WBC Builds, and welcome to Wilverley Park, the ancestral home of the Dukes of Hampwick, aka me. So guys, you've always asked me to build my dream house in Minecraft, and today I'm going to show you what my dream house would be, and that is an entire Georgian Country Estate. 5 years. 5 years since I last stood here, looked up at this place, placed the first bricks, built this incredible Georgian estate. Wilverley House has been sitting here on our server now for 5 years. Over that half decade, we have changed a lot. We have new bricks, we have new blocks, we have new ways of building. And unfortunately this house just feels a bit dated now. So much of this estate worked, so much of this estate didn't work. And today I am going to bring you guys an updated version of this glorious mansion. The building, the video that really took my channel from a small little enterprise into what it is today. A video that really did bring about most of the subscribers. Apart from tutorial videos, this has been my most popular build and video. So today, 5 years on, we are going to reface, rebuild and reimagine Wilverley House, also known as Trafalgar Park in the real world, to a building that stands the test of time for 2026, that encapsulates all these new techniques, designs and styles, as well as rescaling it down to a much more server appropriated scale. So we can't just sit around and say it's a terrible build, because it's not. This place is of its time. Look at these windows, this is back when a 2x3, or in this case a 2x4 window, reigned supreme. It's not to say it doesn't now. This building, while not exactly built to scale, was kind of eyed together. Back in 2020 and 2021 when I built this, I wasn't really measuring things as such. I was just kind of looking at it and going, hey, that might work. That detail looks cool doing that. A window like this. Nowadays, a Venetian window like this would not be done this way. Or perhaps it would be. When I was building this, the debug stick wasn't really used all too much. Nowadays, if you're not twerking your debug stick, then you really aren't building. No, that is a terrible way of saying it. Of course, builds still look amazing without having debug work, but I want to bring you a building that I can be proud of for another 5 years, because this one, it looks incredible. I love it. I've always loved it. And now I want to give it a new lick of paint. So I will be rebuilding this mansion, this beautiful Palladian masterpiece that sits here on a landscape that also has another mansion behind it, but ignore that one for now. I won't be rebuilding everything in the park, because I still like the walled gardens. I think they work. And there's always time to come back and do that again later. No, I will also be doing this gatehouse down here at the front, the entrance to Wilverley Park. As I said in the original video, it's a place to keep the riffraff out and let the Duke of Hampwick in. So guys, come with me as we really do reimagine this 5-year-old build, my dream house, as it still is. So before we tear things down, let's just kind of have a look around and go, what worked with this place? Well, back in 2021 when I built it, like I said, I kind of just eyed things together. This does work in a survival sense. This building would be very nice in a survival world. Here on the server where we have so many creative techniques at hand, it kind of just sits here and looks a little bit flat. So I will be showing you how this can be redone in a 1 to 1.25 scale. At the moment I don't even know what scale this would be, but if I hazard a guess, it would probably be close to 1 to 2, as in the building in game is 2 times bigger than the building in real life, because this was based on a real building. We will have to dig that out again to show you guys later on. Like I said, I won't be redoing the stables or the greenhouse area over here for the walled garden though. Maybe later, maybe we can even do that as a stream in the future. Because while this was fun to build back in the day, it was during the third lockdown of 2020/2021. So I had all the time in the world to sit around and build an estate, and while I would love to do that again, the city, she calls me. Actually, that's incredible. I'm derailing this completely. I didn't realise you could see the city from here. Wow, this is amazing. This was the first build I actually did on this server when we started it back in 2021. In that original video as well, I defended the use of diorite round here for the pond. I think we should also tackle redoing this to make it a little bit nicer, a little bit more elegant. But that's not the only thing. I believe we have a chance to rebuild this column at the back. Now, the first task is figuring out how to do all of this details and design at a different scale. This house, as I kind of alluded to, is possibly built at 2:1. So it's kind of 2 times bigger than it should be. First of all, I've noticed a few mistakes on it that I probably should have corrected back then, but it's been 5 years. It's been sitting here waiting to be done. So I think what we should do now is jump on over to my workshop, where I've been having a little tinker around with some scales. So I've undertaken a little bit of an experiment on the scaling of the building. At the top here we have an original sort of take from the facade of Wilverley House. Now look at this. So it is 49 blocks wide, I think? 46 blocks wide. In real life, the building itself is, I believe, 26 meters wide. Well, at a 1 to 2.5 scale, that would render it around 33 blocks. Down below here, I've already given away a little bit of the secret here, but I wanted to show you guys this sort of behind the scenes thinking behind it all. This is how I wish to render it out now. This is the thinking, this is the technique behind the building to come. It's now sitting at 34 blocks wide. That's a reduction of 12 blocks off the size. And I've managed to keep the proportions exactly as they need to be. Now, since the original one was built up there, a lot of my techniques have changed. I've adopted the debug stick more, as I alluded to earlier, but also there's just a way of doing details that are slightly different now. So let's take these windows up here. What worked and what didn't work? So in real life, the building has coined window surrounds, which are kind of the on-off look to this. I tried to emulate that with using fences and sandstone walls. Behind that was another sandstone wall to act as a sort of window jamb, and then inside that, to make them not so wide for some reason, I added in birch trapdoors. Come below here, we can see a different approach to the same style. Now, if this one is 46 blocks wide, this one is slightly narrower at 39. This is actually 1.5 to 1. So it's 1.5 times bigger than the real life version. With the use of the debug stick, I've been able to figure out a way of doing the coins along the side here by changing the state of the blocks. So instead of them being north up or north down, they're all down on one side, and when we can sort of toggle it between on and off as it goes up. And you do get the coin stone effect. Now these windows have a 1 block center, and with the use of walls behind them as well, I've been able to sort of render that out as it looking like 2 blocks wide. That's also because I've been able to debug the center, so you can kind of get yourself smaller panes in there. It's a little technique I've been doing for a long time on the channel. You would have seen many windows like this if you are a regular viewer. But on the one down here, well, we've had a few new blocks added to the game recently, and that being shelves. Now shelves work weirdly because they're kind of like a slab but vertical. Now I remember back in the days when I was building Wilverley Park, vertical slabs was all the range of people wanting it added to the game. Now it technically is there. It is quite a useful tool. You can see the way the shelves work. It has the kind of on-off that we wanted to get with the coins up there. From a distance, we get that nice surround that's not too heavy, still keeps the sense of the building and the scale. And we are back to the 2x3 supremacy of the windows. Debugged as well, just to try and keep them looking a bit smaller, but we don't have to have them debugged. They still look very good like that. Above them, I've tried to carry on the coining around. You can't put shelves up that way. So instead I've gone for campfires, which I think kind of still work. They do have a little bit of colour change, but once you put some background colour in there, you'll start to see that there is a bit of weathering to it all anyway. So we have the treatment for how the building should look. So for the gatehouse, well, I have a little treatment over here for that. The original building, as we said, looked a bit flat, probably a bit too large. A scale of 1 to 1.5, so it's 26 blocks wide there. In real life, I devised it to be about 19 blocks wide. So it's not too much change, you know, that's 7 blocks we've had to save off of that. Turns out as well, in the real world, the actual building itself is more of a stone colour than a sandstone colour. So I'm going to go through and try and use this grey stone technique just to see how that goes. But that's kind of where I've got to with the gatehouse. I didn't want to finish up too much because we need to actually do it in situ. So without further ado then, should we jump back over towards the park and start building on the big country house? So I thought we'd start things off where the original video began, at the Gatehouse here out on the main road. This place is based on a real life building. It is a real life gatehouse along the longest wall in England that surrounds the Charborough estate in Dorset. The building itself is much more of a granite than I originally realised, hence why it was made out of sandstone in the original video. The building itself is very tall. I do like the very long arch that's surmounted by the pilasters with the lovely roof over the top. I could imagine living here on the little side of the country road. But with that done, I think we'll have a little quick look around before we start on the main house. 5 years later, standing back here at the front gate to Wilverley Park, and it's been rebuilt, reimagined, and remastered. Now, this is much more true to the original building I used as an inspiration for this. While it is kind of not completely the right colour, it's definitely more the correct colour than the old sandstone one, that's for sure. The scale is now almost perfect. It's probably one block a little bit too wide. In the real world, it is it was 19 when I remeasured it to the 1.1 to 25 scale. So at 20, it is possibly one block too wide, but I wanted to get that archway in there with a nice little curve. Lots of little details around the place. You would have seen in the time lapse where I went through and put in quite a few corals around here. Wasn't very happy with those, so at least they came away. And now we're left with a much more subtle detail around there. The little gatehouse keeper's cottage down here as well is a nice little touch, I think, with a little shed or outhouse. Well, that leaves us then with just the main article left. As we pass through the gates, we do approach the house via the driveway. If I had a bit more time on my hands like I did back in the day, we would go through and remaster the entirety of the landscape. But as the gate pulls away from us, as we drive on up, we can see it. Wilverley House. Now, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, it's time, in true fashion of destroying things and rebuilding them in their place, to knock this wall down and relive it how it should be 5 years on. So, let me break the first block out of the way. There seems to be a little hole down there. And now we can get started with Wilverley House 2.0. Hit the music. And do you know what? It was quite fun tearing this place down. I wanted to build the new house in the shell with inside the original building, just because I felt it was a visual way of showing you guys how we upscaled and how we downscaled. I went through and actually put in the kind of the room layouts because I found the original sale brochure from, I think, back in 2020 when this house was on the market. So coming around the front, I'm doing the new portico. The old one was way too thick, way too heavy with, full blocks in there. I've gone for a lot more use of walls this time. The window surrounds I do think are a little bit chunky still, but they capture that style that I really wanted to. As I showed you in the workshop section, they do look like those lovely coined window bits. Coming around to the back now, we're adding in that pediment section, the main central block, reworking the little bit of the garden, and it's now time to jump on to the wings. The wings are the biggest thing that have changed during this process. From the original layout you can see there on the floor, the new wings are like almost half the size. It's crazy to think how out of scale I built those before. They are a very nice simple brick structure, built a little bit later than the original middle section in the real world. As I've alluded to a few times, this is based on a house called Trafalgar Park, which sits just outside Salisbury in Wiltshire. It's a beautiful place and it was used in the film 28 Days Later. Coming around to the garden, we decided to also upgrade that. It wasn't part of the original sort of scheme that I set out in my head, but why not? When in Rome and all of that. Well, I think it's time to jump back into game and see how this place looks. And there we have it. 5 years on. A couple of days worth of work. Not just myself, but the entire team has now been involved in this project. As you probably saw on the time-lapse, things were popping up in the distance. So Goblin had to go at rebuilding the chapel. Solar did an amazing job re-landscaping, re-treeing, and just downright converting this place into a beautiful landscape. Akira helped out with the trees as well. We had Pav adding in a stable. Das added in the cars in the driveway. We had loading as well, adding in a column and the Temple of the Four Winds. Now I'll wander around the whole estate in a moment, but first, breathe in the new Wilverley House, or Trafalgar Park as it probably should be called at this moment in time. I am very impressed with how it's come out. I'm in love with just how it works. This is a building that has always been on my mind as my dream house, as I said in that video all those years ago. But now, having it built at the correct scale, you saw on the time-lapse just how different this building looked beforehand. These were just like out here somewhere. They were like 100 blocks wide. They had no reason to be. But now the building, while probably 4 times smaller, is still a very grand, beautiful looking structure. The brickwork on there, the texture, this little bit of orange coming up through. That's something I didn't tackle last time. And as you saw at the start of the video, the building looked very flat. Yes, we did have a little bit of texturing with the brick and the granite, but now there is other colours in there. Thought about colours, they haven't just been thrown in. Other bricks, blocks included as well. You've got some dripstone up there, a bit of grey terracotta or light grey terracotta through there. But I love this part. Oh, there's a car on the way now. But this is the thing, there is a scene out the front. This isn't now just a static place, there is dynamicness to it. There is a colour to the ground where it was just dirt path before. It's now got a texture thanks to solar, adding in these purlins of details. So the house, am I happy with it? Yes. There are a few oddities that I still couldn't quite flesh out, the windows being one. I was hell-bent on getting that sort of crenellated look, the coins around the edge of the windows. As I showed you in the workshop, I just had to do the windows like this. I think it works. I honestly do think it works well, especially from a distance and kind of looking at it straight on, which, yeah, you get that a lot with some of these builds. But even coming up the driveway, let's just see. It looks so good still. It's stunning. But as I said, a building isn't just a building, it's all about the estate as well. Let's have a little look at some of the little sort of ancillary bits in the building before we head on out into the parkland. I love this area. When you come down into the sort of basement section and look up, you can see the grandness of 4 stories through there. The basement, the main floor, the upper floor, and then the sort of servants' quarters in the roof. Because that's how it was back in the day. The servants lived up on the top floor. We then have the wings, and they even have a basement as well. I think I showed you in the previous one, these basements were like quite big and vast, but now it's all shrunk down to the correct scale. It feels much more human size. While I can still walk around it like this and enjoy, you know, a little step through here, you just, you come up and you see these trees and the landscape by Solar, and it's just, Now Solar also did this part, where he added in the foliage on the front of the building. It's dense, it's bushy, it just helps bring this place together. Coming round to the garden face, this is where the detail kind of changes up a little bit. On the front we still have quite a blocky building, but this one has a central portion that sticks out a bit more, and then 2 pavilions flanking it, while 2 pavilions flank it again. So you get this sort of building and stepping in and out. That little line of green down the bottom breaks up the heavy brick through there. We have this nice little white door with a sort of rounded baroque detail at the top there, and these shelves just make so much difference to adding that little bit of extra detail at this scale. What's cool is there's even little windows down here into the basement as well, and they get some light in there and you can see out to the garden. Speaking of the garden, well, we are now in the rear garden, and I started this video off as well by showing you this area down here with the fountain, and let's just say the whole thing has been rebuilt to the correct size and scale, and there is so much to this now. Let's just change that sun back round again. Imagine that, you're walking out your house, it's early morning, and then you look across to the Temple of the Four Winds back there, built by Loading. But then you also, we probably don't want to walk across the grass. No, we want to go around, past the reflecting ponds here, and another one over there that I'll show you in a second. But look at it all. As I say, an estate isn't just a house. It is the full parkland, the full details of it all. Straight through there, to the Temple of the Four Winds, from Castle Howard. In the distance, another stately home, aching to be built and finished, and, well, you can see it's kind of just there without a landscape. But this is the thing, here it is in the landscape. It's massive, but now, gorgeous. In this pond over here, there is a curious creature or two. We wanted to pay homage to the builders, and please, do not the builders. And Solar developed a way of having all of us sitting on tadpoles, constantly, forever, circling in the pond, forever staring at a single spot over here. Nobody knows why, and nobody knows what they're for, but here they are, everyone that took part in helping rebuild Wilverley House, and I thank you all so much. So I'm going to show off you guys' contributions to this place. Wow, we've already seen a bit of solars and a bit of loadings, and we've seen Das's work out the front, but loadings work at the back. Let's wander over to the Temple of the Four Winds and actually see what's inside it. So if you cast your mind back to the beginning of the video, this is where a column stood, and it was a very poorly built column. It kind of just occupies a focal point out of the building itself. We're actually quite far away. But this is a beautiful folly that sits out the back. We come round and go inside and see a lovely bit of architecture and detail and colours and designs, and loading is just perfect for building this sort of stuff. Oh, he seems to have left a little toy of his lying around. Oh, okay, well, we won't dwell on that too much, but look at this. Ah, isn't it fantastic? 5 years on, a column has been changed into an actual working folly, and I'm in love with this whole estate all over again. But as I said, it's not just been Loading's contributions, no. We have Solar and Akira with the trees, Das with the cars out the front, which are excellent cars, and they are period, and it just makes it feel like an episode of Downton Abbey here. There's like a party going on and all of the cars are lined up on the drive as they are driving around. It's a very big drive, and I wanted to keep it a big drive. I haven't actually changed the width of it. The length. I've changed the width so it kind of fits along the edges of the buildings now. But the actual width of it, I haven't changed, and I think that looks good. It feels big, it feels powerful. When you drive up from the city, and you come in, park your car up, and your car gets taken back off to the stables that we'll go to in a minute. But first, I wanted to walk down to there, the lovely little chapel built by Goblin. Now, I said to Goblin, would you like to rebuild Standlich Chapel, which is what it's based on? And he said, of course, sir. Of course, not sir. He did not call me sir. He called me many things, but he did not call me sir. And I am delighted he did, because walking up to it, instead of it being this horrific sandstone creation that I had built, not even a scale, he has now built it at a loving 1:25 scale with the colours that are meant for stone. Off to the left, we have Loading's second entry into the park, and that is this huge column with a nice little statue on top, lovely details through, and it sits there in the sort of bushwork in the trees, kind of hidden away from, look at that view. But you can see it from the house, and the trees just help break up this parkland. As we arrive at the chapel, we walk through these ancient gates, past a lovely big oak tree on the side, the family graveyard through here. All of these trees made by Solar and Akira, and into the chapel. Oh, look at the details, the colours, the styles, the use of this technique here for levers. Isn't it wonderful? It just feels like a pretty little English chapel, lost to time in a park, in a random little churchyard, tucked away on the estate of Wilverley Park. The house just foreboding on the landscape up there on the hill. Skyscrapers in the distance from the city. Showing that in 1912, even an estate like this still has a role to play. Well, let's hop, skip and jump over to this stable, the final sort of piece of the puzzle before we finish on up at the Gatehouse and say our goodbyes to Wilverley Park. So Akira created these beautiful pine trees. They are like a Douglas fir, very big, heavy pine tree, lovely flat leaves on it. Well, flat sort of leafed sections. The colours through there work so well. I think there's a change of biome in just this area to make it work with those colours. And as we change the sun back round again, just to capture that view, look at it, the tree almost silhouetted up against the building. I think there is a painting of this place in real life that has this view, or at least in my mind, that's kind of what I built it as. We need to head off to the stables, which are actually down this way. I kind of got a bit lost then. I almost ran back out to the front gate. But no, we need to go through here for this little park. So what's left to do? Well, we didn't do the walled gardens. They need working. And I think I'm going to tackle those in a live stream at some point. So you guys check that out once it's up on live, because yeah, it would be nice for us to come back and have a little go at rebuilding those. But here we are, Pav's addition to the landscape. This beautiful stable block. I've just noticed like a little wagon around the side. And he showed us this help so well. It's like we've come out in the morning sun. We've got a cart there. Little details around the back. Oh, excellent job. bit of smoke coming out of there. You can see that there is now the only real part left of the ancient 1 to 1.5 scale building. The new house, acting as a landscape item in the background, a scenery point. So let's walk into this staple block. Small, but long. It works very well. Lovely colours through here. And then we come out to the sort of training yard at the back, the circle where they would drive the horses round, just to make sure they're fit enough before they head on out. A little well in the middle for some water, not really well, a little fountain. Look at this. It feels perfect. It really does. Well, let us wander back down the main driveway then, and head out of this park for another 5 years. Well, there we are, guys. We're back where we started this adventure, at the gatehouse that lets you in but keeps the riffraff out, from Wilverley Park there in the background behind me, finally disappearing behind the trees as we exit. Well, there we are then, guys. 5 years on. What an incredible journey this landscape's had. This parkland has it's grown with this server. It's grown with myself. It is as much a part of this server as anything else could be. Well, I think we've reached a point where it's time for me to show you how this place holds up in a cinematic masterpiece. And there we have it, guys. Wilverley Park, upgraded, it's had its glow up. It's now in the future. 2026, 5 years on from building this. I am so happy with how it's turned out. So remember, guys, get inspired, get building, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.